Okay, well, it's just gone 11, so we'll get going. So welcome to the second session of today. Thank you for joining us. The next showcase is going to be on Verbrannte, Orte, open data about the places of the book burnings in 1933. Jan Schenk joins us to give this presentation. He worked as a system administrator for various NGOs, you know you're important when that's in your bio, studied photography. He was the founder of the memorial project Verbrannte Orte E.B, a digital map of the places of the book burnings by the National Socialists, and he's founder of the memorial Mastodon instance WeRemember.social, in favour of open source, open data and open access. So welcome.
Welcome also from my side. Thank you that you are here. I'm a little bit nervous. I think it's my first talk in English about that topic, so but I think it will work. So I will talk a little bit about our ways how we deal with open data in our project. But after the last days and having a lot of talks with people and sitting in a lot of talks, I was thinking it's necessary that we also talk about sustainability and resilience of digital memory projects. And so I added some slides on the end, and I would like to discuss that topic with you. So I will try to be fast with my presentation so that we have a little bit more than this normal 15 minutes time for discussion, because I'm really like to hear your opinion on that topics. You already said something about me, so I think the important things are mentioned. For me, it's really important that I'm an anti-fascist activist and that I am doing this memorial work out of this anti-fascist activist perspective. So I think a lot of you also do that in that way. So, but I do these talks often in different situations. So for me, it's really important to state that out. And also for me, it's important. I'm not an academic, so I'm not a historian. I didn't went to university, so I really have another perspective on this work. Probably now, since 12 years, I'm working in this memorial field, so probably my perspective also changed and got a little bit adopted by the academic world we are in here. But still, I think I have a little bit of another perspective, and I think it's good. And I would like to have more non-academic perspectives in our memorial work. I will try to explain some terms I use. Disclaimer, maybe some parts of my talk are a little bit technical, because you heard I worked as a system administrator, so I'm a little bit also a tech guy. And so feel free to interrupt me if it's necessary for you to understand my talk. That's really important, because I want that it's accessible for everyone. So feel free to interrupt me on that. And then I try to explain what I mean or what I'm talking about. When we talk about open data, in short, we talk about openly accessible data. It's exploitable and it's editable and shareable. It's one also important point that it can be used, or no, that comes here. Yeah, so editable and shareable and openly accessible. And oft it gets mixed up with open access. Open access is more a set of principles and arrangements and a range of practices to deliver copyrightable content. So it's not really something which has to do a lot with technique. It has more to do with principles and regulations and copyright. So it's open access you can do on some papers and so on, but open data, we talk about sets of data. So I think but these both terms get often mixed up. When we talked about linked open data, then we have open data which is interlinked with each other. So about different ideas, I will go into that a little bit more later. because we use also LinkedOpenData in one part of our project. And an API is an application programming interface. So we, for example, share our data via an API. And so it means it's usable by computers/programs and not only by persons. So it's not a web front end where you can explore the data. It's more like you get a file, an XML file, and JSON file, and you can interpret this file with programs and stuff like that. So that, I think, the important terms for the next hour. I will talk a little bit about what data we have, how we store it, how we work with it, different practical approaches and use cases, and I will later talk about other data, because we also not only using our data, we also use other data from another project, linking it with our data and linking it with other data, and that, I think, is maybe some vision also we have for the future. I will also talk a little bit about which tools we use, and yeah, and I will also have a little bit of a bonus later. Maybe in short about our project, we are a memorial project about the places of the book burnings from 1933, so only this year. We documented in the last 12 years over 165 book burnings which took place in this year, so that's a lot. Most people, when we talk about book burnings, only knew about a few of them, mostly Berlin, the book burning by the students on the Bebelplatz, on the Opernplatz, where a lot of TV material and radio material were produced, and it spread a lot through Germany. And so we have a lot of book burnings also later on after that student book burnings. But the book burnings, and that I think is really important, also started in the beginning of March. And when we had this fascist terror on the street against communists, against unions, and so on. So we have these three phases, and we divide these places into these three phases. You can check our map online, of course, and all the basic information is also available in English and in German, so you can change up there. And what kind of, did I forget something? Oh yeah, it's really important. I started it as a photography project. As said, I worked as a photographer, and we use this atlas or this map. We use it more as a data storage application. Of course, also external people use it because it's in the internet. But for us, this is our central information storage point. And from that on, we do exhibitions. We have a book we did 2 years ago. But you also find all that information in the map. But we try to come out of this digital work also a lot into the analog world, because I think digital projects only working when you combine them with analog work. So what data we have? Basically, of course, we have geodata, exact location of the place. When we know it, we have around 10 places where the exact location is not known. So we only know that in the city was something, then we use the center of the city. We have them, of course, in our front end. We have them as a name. For example, here's the Pfaffenteich in Schwerin, that's the address. When the address changed, the historical name was different from today, then we also state the historical name so that you can work with also with the historical material by yourself. And of course, but that's only in our backend, and you can see it here on a map, we have it as coordinates. So then we of course have the date. When it happened, also we have some burnings where we not have a clear date, or we have just May 33. and but then it's stated. We also have these photographies I talked about shortly. Yeah, we use it a lot for exhibitions, and in our analog work, I brought also a little bit of material here in the front. You can take it later if you want. I'm happy when I don't have to take it back. And we also produce for the places we visit them. I think we have now around 70 places fully documented with these pictures, and also with 360 degrees pictures, where you can go virtually check out the place and move yourself in there and check. For example, here in Schwerin, this building plays an important role in this book burning, because the Nazis put a big swastika with light bulbs on it, and that's stated also in the text about the book burning, and also in the historical documents. So, and then you can connect all the stuff, because you can also explore this place, how it looks today by yourself with this 360-degree picture. As I said, we also have historical documents when we have it and when we are allowed to use it. So we have these here, and for some places, and that's what a lot of work to do, we're trying to have that more. We have longer text about that, what happened. And of course we have the reference, so why do we know about this place and what is the reference? So, and later, you didn't see it here, because in Schwerin there is no memorial place. We added it later that we also state if there is a memorial place, if there is a plaque on the wall or on the ground or something like that. So that was something we added later. That's now we're getting a little bit into the technical part. That's how we work with our data. We have a backend for the data input. We use Drupal for that. It's a CMS, content management system. And this fills the data into our database. And then we have an API which makes this database accessible for external applications. For example, for the front end of our website, for our Android app, which is not working at the moment, so don't try to download it, it's not there anymore. And also for some external use cases, I will talk about that in the next slides. For us, that was really, we really did it from the beginning on, this setup, and it's for us it was really good, because I think we changed the front end 3 times in the last 12 years, and that was always really easy, because we didn't have to change everything and change the system and the database and the software. We just had to write a new front end, so that kind of easy. And yes, a little bit details about our API. You also find that when you're looking on our website, you find that information. We have different API endpoints. I'm not going through all of them now, because then we lose the time for what we are for the discussion. We can get the places as a list. We can get the places sorted by date. We can get the place with some information, and we have also an internal API point. We use internal for get places extra, and then we get the places with all the information we have. That's a bigger amount of data, but and also there is some data in it. We don't have the copyright for it, so that's why we didn't share it publicly over the API, over the API. And we can do a search via the API. We can get the faces, we can get the images, and so on. It's what's delivered is a JSON file in the end, GeoJSON file, and it looks like that when we have it. That's here you see that's the list. That's this entries, and when you look at one of the entries, you see all this things. We have the date, DE date in German, date in English. That's the translation of the date in English and German, and of course we have it in a machine-readable format. That's date. Here is it null because at this Leipzig book burning, the one we didn't know the exact date. We have the address, we have the coordinates, we have here the has a memorial site or not, false or true, and then we have the links to the images and so on. So basically that's what you get when you get on our API endpoints. And we use that a lot. For example, we take this JSON file, convert it to CSV, work a little bit with OpenRefine or Excel to just get rid of some columns, and then we convert it to ICS, so we can easily make a calendar file with the dates of the book burnings, and that's of course really handy because we have it in our calendar, so we always see when were the local book burnings. When we plan our exhibitions, we have it on one glimpse, and we don't have to look into each front end of the website. So to see if it's when it was in Recklinghausen, we don't know. I don't know all the dates, but that's a really handy thing, and that's one of the use cases. From the beginning on, I was really happy that we have this API and use OpenData, because otherwise I think it would have been far more complicated. We also have we also use this to create our on this day content for social media, because the nice thing that our API also gives out the links to the images, so it's really easy to take this file, this JSON file, convert it to CSV, adopt it to the files our social media software needs, and then we can just import it and have this on this day things. So really easy and really straightforward, and and we can use it for all our social channels. Another thing why it's for us, it's really sometimes really handy when we combine it with Nominatem. It's a geocoding tool from OpenStreetMap. We can add the state, the federal state, to our location data, and so then we have this list where we can see, okay, which places were in the federal state of Bavaria, so for example, or Lower Saxony, and that's really easy, accessible, and that was, for example, really good while we are planning the book or our exhibition, because we wanted to have the federal states, like, all should be represented in the book and in the exhibition. So some really daily use handy things. Also, when we plan some trips to a special state, then we can see which other places are there. Is it easy to make maybe a tour of talks and so on. Also, with this CSV list and OpenRefine, of course, we can OpenRefine. You know that? Yeah. Okay. It's a tool for working with lists, with big data lists. This one is really small because we just have 164. I think now it's 168 rows. But it's easy. For example, which was for us really important to make this facet about has a memorial site or not, so that we can easily check which places have a memorial site or not. And of course, we can then say it's really not much. So we have 35 places of this 164 at that point who had a memorial place, so that it's really not much. And also for us, it's really important or handy because we can easily check on this list is an English translation missing, for example. So because then the field is empty and we can sort on that. So this list combined with OpenRefine is a really easy tool for data analysis our data and to just which places on which phase and so on. And it's not you don't have to look on this map. Also, you don't have to update an Excel sheet and our database. It's just you update our database, you go to our JSON file and ready. So that's really handy. We don't have to update different parts of data sources. So that in short, that in really short was a little bit of the way how we use our data and how we deal with it, and why I think it's really handy to have open data and to have APIs and to work with that technologies. There are some examples from our daily life, but I think open data, and that's why I really like to make this talk, and I'm happy that I'm invited about it, because I think open data is getting really interesting when we link it with each other. So what I mean with that, there is a project Verbrannte and Verbrannte, it's a burned and banned. It's about the list of the books which were forbidden during National Socialism, and it's a public list. It's an open data list. You can download it as a file and you can use it. And that's a project. It's an old Coding Da Vinci project, which is a little bit was something we got the idea for how we use this list internally. And what we are doing, we're taking this list, it's called Liste des unerwünschten Schrifttums. It's this list about the banned books. Then we combine it with the list, this project I showed Verbrannte and Verbrannte did. And then we put it in OpenRefine, and that's now where this linking is happening. We use Lobit. Lobit is it's a portal. It's a data infrastructure for libraries and for identifiers and links to different other data sets. So when your data has a Lobit ID, then you can find it in this Lobit database. And in this Lobit database, you find then the link to the Wikipedia articles, to the Wikidata ID, so the Wikidata sets. You find different archives when it's there. You find, for example, the Bibliothèque Nationale Française. You find many other things. The GND, the authority file of the German National Library. All these links to this data sets are then in this Lobit thing. And via OpenRefine, you can import these links in your file, and you can reconcile the data with Wikidata so that you are sure that you have the right IDs and so on. And you can add information, for example, from this other data sources. For example, from Wikidata, we can, when we want to have for example, the birthplace in this file, we can add this birthplace to the persons via this IDs directly from Wikidata in OpenRefine. OpenRefine is a really great tool. And what we then do, we use a software called Open Semantic Search. And it's a software which we use only internally for our daily research on social media things and stuff like that when we prepare exhibitions or stuff like that. And I will show you a little bit soon. And this software, you can give a list of URLs, and this list we get from here. So we use all these URLs for example, for Bertolt Brecht, we have the URL to the DNB entry, we have the URLs to the Wikiverse entries, so Wikidata, Wikipedia English, Wikipedia German if we want. We have the link to archives, we have the link to other libraries, and we take all these links and give it to Open Semantic Search, and Open Semantic Search is importing what's behind these links, and we have a full text search on that content. So we have a full text search on the biographical content from a lot of sources about this author. And that's, for us, really handy when we, for example, prepare social media campaigns, for example, for the Day of Press Freedom or something like that, because then we're looking explicit for authors who are also working as journalists, or when we are, I have some examples. Here you see shortly the list of URLs fetched. You see it in OpenRefine. So we have for this 4,112 authors records. We have then always this list. On some you only have like 3, but on others you have I think it's getting until 15. So I think we have 15 links for some persons and 15 different data sets we then import into our thing. What we also do, I will come to Open Semantic Search a little bit later. What we also do with this OpenRefine list is we just take the columns with the dates, with the birth date and with the death date, and convert it to an ICOL file and import it into our calendar. So we have a calendar with the birth dates and the death dates of the authors, which were banned in National Socialism. And that's, for our work, of course, really handy, because we can plan social media stuff with that, we can do some research on that. So OpenData is really great. What we also can do, we did a map where we put the death place, the birthplace, and the workplace of authors. And of course, not all of these authors have this information, so that's not the that's why there are not 4,000 entries on that, just a few. But it's a really handy thing to visualize this data and to just explore it a little bit. And that's really easy, because with UMap, it's a tool from OpenStreetMap. You can do it really easily on your own and use it, and have a really fast way to make a map with this basic information for your own use. Okay, Open Semantic Search. What I'm really finding interesting there, you can, of course, search, for example, for the name Mühsam. Then you find all the entries about Erich Mühsam in the Deutsche Biographie, in the Wikipedia, English and German, at the German National Library, at the Archive Portal of Germany, at the here's the Bibliothèque Française, and so you can check this different entries, but you're not only finding the Mühsam entries, you're also finding all the entries where Mühsam is mentioned. So you find also this connections when someone worked together with Mühsam or with Erich Mühsam or stuff like that. And then we also use facets to explore this data set. For example, when we want to look into authors which have a biographical relationship to the concentration camps, either they were there or I don't know. But so we did a Wikidata export about the list of concentration camps and imported that as a facet into this Open Semantic Search, so that we see on the side this where the concentration camps mentioned when we search for Erich Mühsam, and then we can, of course, click on it and see in which entry it's mentioned, and it's a great way to explore the data. On the next slide, you see something similarly. We also use this for an exhibition we did about authors which has a biographical thing with the Elbe River. So either they were born there, or they worked there, or they write about it. And they did a Wikidata. We asked Wikidata to give us a list of give us a list of the towns which are at the Elbe River, and then we import that as a facet, and so then we can easily like search for authors which have something to do with Wittenberge, the town at the Elbe. That was really handy to prepare this exhibition. And that's what I think is the most interesting thing. We not only come with our perspective on that topic, we also can open that to ask for other perspectives. And we imagine the girl who really likes soccer. We had the thing. We worked with this software at a university in Hamburg. It's an illustration class. They should do illustrations about authors which were banned or forbidden. And I did an introduction, and then they used this tool for a few hours and researched in it. And we had this girl who was really interested in soccer, and then just put soccer or football in it, and Fußball, and found H.G. Welch, who was playing football in his times when he were studying. So this girl has a personal connection to this author, and that's I think we have to open, or when we open our data, we have the possibility to that people can explore it with their own perspective. And for me, this work with this illustration class was really interesting, because I really got the feeling, okay, that is something really useful, because they were all like, oh yeah, I searched for that, and I searched for that, and they found information I really didn't know about it, even if I'm really into this topic. And they all find persons they have a personal relationship to draw, and that was to illustrate, and that was for me really interesting. And before I get to our future vision, what we want to do, some of the tools we use, of course, Wikidata, OpenRefine, Open Semantic Search. It's really sad because it's a software which is not actively developed anymore, but you can use it on your computer, and it's a little bit buggy at some points, but for our internal use it's okay, but you cannot really use it externally. And Lobit, I also already told them this convert JSON to CSV, some conversion between all these different data sets. And of course, OpenStreetMap in various tools they offer, because we work a lot with location data. So of course, OpenStreetMap for us is really important. I also will share this slides on the memory collective space about the conference, so you will also find it there. So I'm really not good at doing mind maps, but what we want to do. We want to have this laboratory for digital learning about the book burnings, and about the places, about the authors, about the publishers, about the illustrators of the books. So all this information, and all this information can be linked to each other, and we really would like to have at some point have a tool we can publish externally, so people can use it, and they can just do their own research on this topic, and not only when we are able to provide our internal tool. Because we can have these places, we have when we look at Wikipedia, you always have this list from famous persons. So we can do these connections between the desk place, the workplace, and other famous persons. Are there connection between the author and this other famous person? We can, of course, look for things like population. So we want all the authors which lived in a city which is smaller than 5,000 people. So citizens, inhabitants. You know what I mean. We can have this federal state. And we can all link this data, put it into here, and people can use it and explore it. That's my vision I really would like to have at some point, because I think it's really a way to open new perspectives to this thing. Even if I'm really fast,
You've got 22 minutes.
Yes. Just a short example. This is the thing we used. I talked about this Elbe exhibition. So we had these authors which has a connection to the Elbe, and we have the places. And you also find that under elbe.verbrannte-orte.de. It's in German, sorry. And yeah. So why we do it? Of course, the opportunities. And I think this is not only why we do it, it's also now this point why I would say do it. And please, in your projects, in your digital memory projects, use open data. Because, for example, this connection, I really would like to connect our data set to the library of the lost books. Because then people could see, was this book in the library of the lost books? So is it in there? And then they can go over to this project. So we can interlink these projects and I think create more visibility to our projects with stuff like that. Of course, there's the possibilities of new perspectives. Researchers can use our data and just research on it with their own perspective, like, but also, yeah, for example, the student example I did. I think this modularization, I don't know if it's the right term, so just not have it have this vendor login and our data is stuck somewhere. It's really easy for us to for example, change the front end, and that's important in terms of accessibility, because if we how we in a society talk about accessibility of content is changing, and so we can kind of easily, it's of course not that easy, but we can more easily adopt it, this discussions when we have it a little bit separated, all these modules. So when we don't have to change all the software and the data just because we want to have we have a braille reader or something like that. It's maybe not a good example, but you know what I mean with accessibility. So I think that's also a good point. And technologies are changing, and if you have open data, there's probably a chance that you can convert it into new data formats, and that you can also can use it. Jetzt muss ich zu schnell? Nee. And that's, I think, is the point where we come to resilience and sustainability of data of digital memorial projects. We have no vendor login if we use open data. We have our data; it's belonging to us, so it's not somewhere on some servers of a vendor, and we didn't come to it. I saw in the last 12 years projects which at some point really struggled to survive because they had this vendor login. And usability in the future, I already said about it. We can do software changes and so on. How long could we run it? At some point, the company we are working together with is saying, "Oh no, we close the servers because nobody is using it anymore, or our contract for the next 5 years is over." but what is happening to this data in this database? And then there is no export function or something like that. It's a true story. And so if we use OpenData, we are in control of our data. And I think that's important. And we have that's maybe all sustainability, but resilience. Times are changing. And I think if we look at Trump and also what Bolsonaro did in Brazil when he got to power, they are trying to change collections and they remove collections from the internet. And that's Bolsonaro did a lot of removal from ecological science collections. And Trump, yeah, we know this Enola Gay example and so on, but also the Trump administration is doing stuff like that. And if we use OpenData, we have the possibility, for example, for cross-archiving, so that we each other archive our projects, so that they are not only in the hands of the, for example, state museum, which at some point gets no funding anymore or gets some talk from the state. You can't do that anymore. What's happening then? And then I think we should really, because of course in America we now in the USA we now see what's happening there, but I'm not so sure that we won't expect stuff like that in Europe. So I think we really need to think about the structures, and that's what I really want to hear from you about that. How we achieve that. Of course, we need funding for stuff like that. And of course, we need this principle: public money, public code, public data. And I think that's especially for like all this, foundations which support our projects. They should really put it into their call for applications that the data must be accessible or at least stored in open data formats. Because of course, I know that we have in this Holocaust thing, we cannot make all data open, accessible, but we can use open data formats to achieve this sustainability and resilience features from open data. For example, a possibility would be that the Landecker Memorial Lab database would, I'm not looking at you, is mentioning what tools be used, if the data is open data, if the project is using open source, so that we can learn from each other, so that we can educate ourselves and that we can research on that, which digital memory projects are using open data. So, and of course, we have to do it. And I think, as I said before, times are changing, and I think open data is a really important step in this, that we are resilient about this thing. And so, and because I really want to hear your opinion on that, and of course you can also ask questions, but maybe you can ask also the questions later, and we can now discuss. That's the end, and I'm happy. Thank you for this great conference. Thank you that you are here, and you can of course follow us on the normal social media things, and you can really, you're invited to get in contact with me and check out our websites. This is our map. That's also available in English, and this is our blog main project site with all this information about our API and stuff like that. That's mostly in German. I'm sorry, but if you have questions, just get in contact with me. And thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we have about 15 minutes, so I'm going to open to the floor straight away. Yes.
Thanks very much for the insight into this, I call it sort of a grassroots project.
Yeah.
Very, very valuable. To me, it seems there's enormous potential for educational work on it. So I was wondering, and slipping through your map, I quickly get the idea that a lot of places they are still missing more information on the photos and everything. So did you ever think about collaborating with students to complete all that? Have you experiences with that, or are you theoretically open to that?
We are theoretically open to it. It's more it's a problem about about our the limited time we have, because I'm the only person have a paid job in there, and it's a really small paid job, and I work a lot more. And we are not so lucky with funding, because it's really not my famous thing, do funding applications. And we have some volunteers on different things, like for research stuff, and but they also all have limited time. So, and the problem is really this coordination of all these things. It's all on me, and I'm now away for a week for a conference. It's a pile of stuff to do afterwards. I think you know that. But we are open for that. So if you have ideas on that,
because all these local things are so valuable for educational purposes, that the students can then see what they're really doing and contribute. So it would be just the interface thing for you to get delivered the material and then to integrate it into your system.
And we do that, we get material delivered, and I think also it's important, in the last 2 years we did over 40 exhibitions about that topic with our exhibition we have, and throughout Germany. And I think that's also, we are always, when we are visiting places and taking the pictures there, we are meeting with local structures, local memorial projects, local democracy projects, and get in contact with them. And for example, to Erfurt and Kala, in the last years, after our visitors, there were initiatives founded for creating a memorial space. And these are both places in Thüringen, in the, I don't know the English, Thüringen. It's really necessary to have these memorial places, because you have a really right-wing structures there, and that's happened after our visit. So we are really trying always to get in contact with these local structures, and but it's really managed, limited by our capacities. And I would like to have more money.
Yep. Thank you very much for your presentation, and to add a little bit to the discussion. I mean, this relates very much to what I've done over the last 20 years in the Netherlands and in Europe, connecting information, opening up information, standardizing, things like that. So I think we have come a long way. The policy in the European Commission has 3 pillars: the digital, the green, and the social. And the digital is all about open access, data responsibility. But how to make it sustainable, that's a big challenge. We have, of course, competitive from the commercial, the platforms, the AI, that there is a serious risk, I think, that we as institutions, researchers, end up with the costs of maintaining this data, and the value is harvested by commercial companies. So that's something we have to work on. And I think it starts with, you mentioned funding. I won't call it a funding. I mean, I'm very curious to hear, and that's not in this session, but how you came with this idea. I think it's very important to in order to make it sustainable, to try to relate from the start with potential stakeholders, and not necessarily governments or funding, because they are very good in providing money and strong regulations, but people who have an interest in your work and maybe contribute with other things like content, as mentioned, but also values, and to make it more sustainable. And open data is important, but an open attitude is also, because my impression is, but I like to be challenged, is that within our sector, within our close environment of professionals, we like to do the things on our own. We like to do the things, and we have the funding that allows us to do so, but we should much more open up to the society. What do they think is important, and where are the stakeholders to also to have in the long term political support for our endeavors.
Yeah, and also funding is often limited to you have to create something new.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we don't need so much. I mean, we have a great software about semantic collection, presentation, storytelling from the Memorialize project. I learned just yesterday about it, and so we have a great software, but the funding, but the development of the software for the future is.
Yeah.
You can tell it. It's not clear what will happen there.
Yeah.
And I saw the software and it absolutely fits our needs. So.
Yeah.
But we already have a software which is not developed actively. So.
Yeah, well, thank you, Jan, for your really fascinating talk. And yes, we would love to liaise with you. I'm sure we're going to have some conversations afterwards. But I'm interested at this point, and I was really fascinated by your reflections about the engagement with the pupils and the search with this keyword Fußball. Can you maybe say a little bit more about how your project materializes in a learning environment, and how what you could observe and what you've heard about the engagement with the object of the book? Because I mean, we were facing a lot of prejudice, nobody will be interested in books. And I was actually quite happy to see that you can actually personalize it on the website. But what was the artwork that came up in that workshop, and how did the pupils relate to the books? Did they relate to the books afterwards as well?
Yeah, in this workshop, in this special workshop with the students, it was they were working on an exhibition for a literature festival in Hamburg. Hamburg released Verbrannte Bücher. Hamburg is reading burned books. It was in 2023. And we participated also in this festival, and at some point we got contact to this university, and they say, hey, can you do an introduction to the book burnings, because our students are working on that. And then we were talking, and they were, and they should do illustrations about authors, and I was thinking about our tool and was like, I would like to try it this week, but it's only internal. So I put it on our server just for that occasion, so that they can use it for 3 hours, and they related to the biographies of the authors, and not directly to the books, I think, and I think for us we started with working with these places, and we really made this experience that people can connect to these places, because we had this one young I think child at some exhibition we had, he was going to this map and was like, oh, my grandparents live there. And that was his connection. And I think we need this personal connections, because for now the last years, decades, the survivors where this personal connection people could connect to, and they are dying, and we lose them. And I think we have their testimonies, but I think we really have to develop other ways, and we do. So I'm not really telling something new here. A lot of your projects also doing it. We have to do this, opening up for the people can connect to this topic with their personal views or with their personal relation. Biographies, I think, are a really strong thing.
Thank you.
Yeah, just a quick question. Thanks, Kate. Thanks, Jan. Very interesting. One of the reasons I wanted to come to this talk was because of the urgency of this topic. You mentioned a couple of things which I'd just like to develop a bit. You mentioned Trump and Bolsonaro actually closing off certain collections, and the possibility that we could be seeing things like this in Europe at some point. I completely agree. And from a German perspective, you've got another federal election coming in 4 years' time. Yeah. Quite possibly that could result in an AfD-CDU coalition. Who would bet against this kind of thing? I don't mean necessarily actual book burnings. It wouldn't be that overt. They're probably more subtle about it. But the stifling of thought through the destruction of books or the closing off of accessibility to books. I just would like to hear your thoughts on that. And also, I think that in pushing for funding, in appealing for funds and resources, this is an angle that really needs to be emphasised. You know, the urgency of this. It's not just that this is something we might have to deal with a few years down the line. It's something, there's a very strong possibility we will be facing in 3 or 4 years' time.
Yeah, I totally agree. Was there a question?
Well,
because
I really hate it when people say it's just an observation rather than a question. I suppose it was an observation, really, but I mean, I suppose if there is a question there, it's and you see, I mean, effectively you've answered it, because you mentioned those two things in passing, but I think they should be absolutely centre stage of your work in stressing the urgency. So, you know, in terms of, if you like, marketing the work, I think it's worth putting that front and centre. That's all. So I suppose it was an observation rather than a question. I apologise, but
that's what I really wanted, that we talk about it. So
maybe
thank you.
if I can add something to that, we have had a method for preservation of digital information called logs. Lots of copies keep stuff safe, so that you are saying in 3-4 years time, but we're already seeing now the case of the International Court of Justice, where because of American dependency, an email account is closed off, so it's happening now already.
right.
So that might be a solution. On the other hand, there's also, of course, green. How do we justify all this digital space, digital footage? So it's complicated.
But on that topic, I really would say our topics are so important. Let's just close down all this artificial intelligence shit, because we will save a lot of resources for our work. So it's really I didn't mean it like exactly like I said it, but I think we are not the ones who should think about. I mean, of course we do, because we are open-minded people, but that this thought should not limit our effort to do this, because I think there are other points in the society which are much more really should thought about it and not us. But I know what you mean.
Thanks, Dan. This is a great talk. I was really drawn to the mention of cross-archiving. It's not really something I was familiar with. My mind immediately went to something like BitTorrent, where I'm thinking about everyone's kind of like hosting the same files. And I'm thinking about, you know, the disappearing and alteration of things, and how we saw in the keynote just the other day how reliant they were on archive.org's Wayback Machine. And that's a great resource, but I think most people were kind of like, well, that's one place. And it's very centralized in that way. And I was wondering if you know anything about, like, I can imagine the idea of archives being, you know, redundant across different systems, but is there any way of verifying, like creating like a trusted sort of copy, like so that, you know, because it seems like you have so many copies floating around, things could change and the data could get all mixed up. And
yeah, there are technical solutions for that, definitely. I'm really not so much into that, but you can work with hash files, stuff like that. So there are for sure technical solutions on it, and I think there are, for example, I think the Rosen Archives, as this international organization they are, they also have, for their digital archives, they have different copies of their whole digital archive, as I remembered right. I'm not sure, but I think it's like that. So they somehow deal with that stuff already. And also for this Bolsonaro example I had at this point, there were a lot of IT collectives starting to work together and just mirroring this data, and not so much about, okay, how this fact checking and all the stuff, and how is that it's not editable and stuff like that, but because there was this urgency. And also, for example, another example, the TIB, the Technical University Braunschweig, no, Hannover, Braunschweig, they are starting to archive, to make a mirror of archive.org, an internal, so not publicly, but because they also saw this necessity to support it. And of course, because there are all this copyright regulation, stuff, they didn't do it publicly, but they started. Lamberts. I forgot the first name. Help me. Yeah, so they're already on it. So there are initiatives already on it, and I think we really should be on that topic for our digital memorial work.
Thank you. I have lots of questions on my phone, but we're out of time, so we're going to have to take that outside. I just want to thank you again.